So we wrapped up Legends, and it was fortuitous that as we, again, being a producer, I think I said it earlier, you go 13 weeks to 13 weeks to 13 weeks, and you better be able to produce. And when I say 13 weeks, I'm including pre-production. That's where you hire your staff, hire your crew, figure out what studio you're going to be at, your lighting director, etc., hiring your staff, anything you need to build, all your artwork, etc., props, shooting the shows, and then once you get them in the can, editing them, and then finally sweetening them, which is adding music and or applause and laughs. Yes, we had laughs, but not to the Temple Run. So, as I said, fortunately, who approached me? Of course, it was Bob Bowden. Bob Bowden, very good friend of mine. Had lunch with him the day before yesterday. He was working for a new channel, which was called the Family Channel, which soon after my old boss Chaim Saban bought and turned into the Fox Family Channel, because Chaim, God bless him, I love Chaim. I was at his wedding, and I saw him recently. I saw him in the Laker game. Yaba. I always call it Yaba is some Israeli for buddy. Yaba, Yaba. It's me. Anyway, good guy. So Bob says, Woody Frazier's hiring. I said, oh, great. Now, Woody Frazier, very well-known guy in this town, been in the business a long time. He did, I knew him from That's Incredible, which was a very big show. Oh, I guess it was the 1970s with Skip Stevenson. I think it was Byron Allen's first show. I may be wrong. There were incredible stunts, incredible everything. It was a very typical Woody show. Woody had produced the Mike Douglas show out of Philadelphia, and likewise produced the Steve Allen show. Steve Allen, for those who don't know, who was on Couch Potatoes, had hosted the Tonight Show, but also did once he was out of the Tonight Show, did the Steve Allen show. It's like Johnny Carson doing a Johnny Carson show if he had left the Tonight Show after 30 years on the air, which he didn't do. Good old John. Anyway, so, I knew of Woody. I hadn't met him. I heard he was very chatty. And so I met with him, and he seemed a little egocentric, and I don't mean that in a mean sense. He talked a lot about himself and about all of his shows, I guess in a manner so that we would be indoctrinated into how he was working on, how he planned out working on the show, which was entitled Family Challenge. Family Challenge for the Family Channel. Not a real stretch for a title of the show, okay? And once again, I was going to be immersed in a family-oriented show where kids were asked questions to the family and kids and whatever. But the first problem with the show, we had very little pre-production, and we all met up. I was able to hire my segment producers, which is really nice. I brought in Todd Nelson, of course. Dennis was busy doing something. Dennis was also an artist and had a lot of other occupations, but Dennis was too busy. But Todd Nelson went straight away. We went right from Legends over to Family Challenge, and just knowing that Todd was with me, whatever stunts we would likely do, I knew I was covered because he was my backup. Now, Richard Crystal, who's Billy Crystal's brother, was the supervising producer, and he was in the next office from me. Likewise, which I was unaware of when Bob Bowden first approached me, Dave Garrison was also producer on the show. Dave has produced a myriad of shows. I honestly, I can't tell you which shows. Ultimate Revenge, I know he did also for Woody, but Dave was very well versed, and I've worked with many other producers, the most low-key, quiet, good-natured, grace under pressure producer I've ever worked with. But the way Woody wanted to do it was we would have teams, okay? So Richard Crystal, the supervising producer, which meant he didn't have much to do. He just supervised. And my team would produce our stunts, and we would shoot one day, and then Dave Garrison would shoot the next day, or vice versa. So, but we didn't know until we had meetings what stunts they had laid out for the Garrison team, and they didn't know what stunts I had laid out for mine. Only Richard Crystal knew, but Richard never really talked about it much. Richard's a great guy, but it was a very loose show. I mean, in terms of, when I say loose, at Stone Stanley, everything, you know, we'd put cards together, we'd pin things on the wall. So we always had a grand overview of any show that we were working on. You know, you could, in a glimpse, you could see where you were going with this show. With Family Challenge, first off, they decided to shoot it at a studio I'd never been to, and I thought I had shot everywhere. Steve Friedman and I had shot one show at the old Monogram Studios. Monogram is known only for doing the Bowery Boy movies. It was a real shithole down at Melrose and Van Ness, I believe. And that was a horrible place. Sunset Gower, which was formerly Columbia Studios, run by Harry Cohen, who was the cheapest guy, cheapest of all the movie moguls. That was also a crud hole where we had to do some of the Newlywed Games. One place I didn't mention, when we were doing Dating Game, we had to move from KTLA over to a place on Cole, which had been Desilu. And that was neat only because there were only 3 stages. And before it was Desilu, it was RKO, Howard Hughes studio. And the fact that it hadn't been utilized very much since Desi and Lucy had been there. And I, like I always did in all the old studios, and being a movie memorabilia fan, in case you can't see around this place, I would go digging, and I went downstairs. I remember this so vividly. The first day that we shot a Dating Game, went downstairs. Desi, it's actually Desi. Desi is his name, not Desi. I left out one story. I'm going to tell it in a second. And they had a jacuzzi set up. It was just for Desi and Lucy. And I came around, and it smelled, it was terrible, but he had left some of his stuff there, and it was so cool. And I brought people down, but they weren't as impressed as I was, because I grew up, I mean, I love Lucy. And even though I had met Lucy, you know, old Lucy, as opposed to, wow, I love Lucy's stuff, that to me was grand. What I was going to bring up was, back in Chaim Saban land, Chaim would occasionally latch on to people and hand them off to me and say, do something with this guy. People that he liked, or people he thought were engaging, or people that he thought he could make a star out of them. And one of them was Desi Arnaz Jr., who I met, and we spent days and days together. Again, I knew his mom, and he knew that I knew his mom, and he was a great guy, but he was so self-deprecating. And you know, what I really wanted to do is just try and make him a host, because that, you know, I work primarily in game shows. And he was an engaging guy, he was a funny guy, he was a likable guy, but he maybe he does now. He didn't have, you would think he would have a big ego, but he was so tough on himself, such a lovely guy. And I could never do anything well with it. Like, again, you know, I would love for, well, who better to host I'm Telling, you know, a kid's show, you know, about the parents, than Little Ricky, the real Little Ricky. But Desi was great. Anyway, okay, so fast forward. Now I'm working at Glendale Studios, first time there, and it was like Green Acres. Things were falling apart. The parking lot was it was mostly potholes. The offices were, the walls were crumbling. And Woody, I didn't realize this, Woody was taping 2 shows at the same time. Family Challenge, which ultimately was meant to be kind of a double dare, I won't say rip off, but or clone, a Double Dare type show, a stunt show with slime. But we couldn't call it slime, so Woody came up with the word gunk. Okay, it was gunk. You're going to go into this. We had a lot of swimming pools, not a lot, I'm lying, but we had one or two big swimming pools filled with gunk. And in every show, we would have one stunt where the kid would have to go pearl diving and have to get all gunked up to find the pearl. To me, the stunts that Woody would pitch and the stunts that Todd and I would come up with, and likewise, we had other segment producers. Todd Barton was there as well, wonderful guy. They were not the kind of stunts that I was proud of in any way, shape, or form, because Woody made it clear he wanted very simple stunts, very like balloon popping stunts. I mean, all the idea of marshmallow eating stunts. And I started to say he was shooting two shows simultaneously, so he was just running back and forth. I mean, again, I'm producing my family challenge shows. Dave Garrison is producing his family shows, and likewise, I don't remember the name of the gentleman producing the other show, which is Wild Animal Games, WAG for short, was what they called it, with Ryan Seacrest hosting. It was his first game show. He'd not done a talk show yet. Ryan and I became very good friends, had lunch together almost every day, and we talked about our disappointment in the shows that we were working on. To give you like an overview of Family Challenge, later I was to work on Til You Drop, which was a wonderful experience and taught me a lot about great stunts or interesting stunts or viable stunts or stunts that you would want to watch. But the Family Challenge stunts, in my mind, it seemed like the audience was 5 or 6 years old, to the point where the announcer would start off the show, "Welcome to Family Challenge, where today you'll see birthday cake candle blowout." Let's stop right there, okay? If that's what you're teasing for your show, get a new show. But I swear to God, that's birthday cake. I mean, you know what the stunt's going to be. They're going to bring out a big birthday cake, okay? And can you beat the other player? Go. You blow. Whoa, okay. The host, by the way, was Ray Combs. Ray Combs, short guy, good guy, very well, good-natured, and very pleasant. I'd never worked with him before. He had hosted Family Feud for several seasons and came highly recommended. And he was very good initially. But I'll continue. So, birthday cake candle blowout. Human hot dog. Okay, human hot dog. You take the dad, okay, and you've got, this is the only way I can explain the show is by explaining the stunts and you saying, really? And this is nothing against Woody. This was his idea. And again, I don't know particularly what the Family Channel audience was. Maybe it was little tiny tots, but yeah, human hot dog was just, we put dad in a big plastic shaped bun, and you got to cover him with ketchup and mustard, and you got to use all the condiments. And once again, in a timed round, you got to get all the condiments on dad. Okay, just an excuse to mess up dad. These were families that came in, 2 families, real families. We didn't have to put them together like legends. Okay. One that Woody loved, and again, he had done this on other shows prior, was Kiss a What, okay? And again, the announcer, Kiss a What is coming up. Huh? Kiss a What was simply, you blindfold the dad or the mom, but in our case, more often than not, because we did it several times, you blindfold the dad, and they bring out a frog, and you kiss the frog, and you take the blindfold. The other family's watching, okay? So you kiss a frog, then the second family goes, and the payoff ultimately is whatever animal they're kissing. Okay, by the time now, Ray is setting up the person that's going to kiss. Oh my God, what's going to come out next? And it's a beautiful woman. Okay. And so the audience is in on the joke, this gorgeous woman comes out, the guy's got a blindfold on, and she's kiss, and then finally the blindfold comes off. Oh, it's a woman. And that was about the best stunt we had. But is that a stunt? I don't know. Balloon pinhead. Okay. Balloon pinhead's coming up. You got a hat and it's got a pin on it. Okay. And you got a water balloon, and you take the water balloon and you smash it against the guy's pin, and the balloon water, and it breaks on the dad. I can keep going. Balloon pinhead.
For the purposes, but
yeah, okay.
Forgive me for this. I think we get the idea.
Yeah, I know. I thought you would.
Sorry.
So yeah, we did that. But also the way it was shot. I'm all for handheld cameras. Okay, every show you work on, you're gonna have at least one handheld camera. Especially after 1985, I would say. Traditionally, most cameras are on pedestals, and you got one handheld guy running around. For this show, big mistake. Glendale Studios was a very old studio, and it had a very low lighting grid. Okay, the lighting grid, of course, folks, is where all the lights are hung that light the set. But unfortunately, when you're a handheld operator and you're on a very small set, you're shooting up, and if you watch Family, I don't think it's on the air, but I'm sure it's on YouTube somewhere. If you look at it, half of the show, you're shooting into the lighting grid. Because they used almost all handheld cameras. I don't know how many we had. I know Easter was one handheld guy that I used many times, was on the show. But it looks, when you watch it on YouTube, as if all of them are handheld, and it's just so much movement you could throw up. Plus, shooting the grid is not the intention of the lighting director nor the director, who happened to have been, I think, Bob Loudon. I'm pretty sure Bob did it. And we were to do Shop Till You Drop afterwards, which was done correctly. So it wasn't the worst show I've ever worked on, but it was the dullest show from a production standpoint, because I felt Todd was wasted. The other Todd as well was wasted. Richard Crystal had very little to do, because Woody was very hands-on, and Woody wanted what he got, which was, again, human hot dog. And those and again, climbing through gunk. We also had a slide that you went down. But if you've ever seen the show, I guess, from the first second, the most disappointing thing is just the set. It looks like it was, I built presentation sets for next to nothing for presentations, not a pilot, that looked so much better than this set. Well, the cyc is the curtain that goes around the set, okay? It's it's short for cyclorama. And this set was butted up against the cyc, and all it was a framework of a front door of a house, some greenery, and a picket fence, okay? Like a transom, just a picket fence, like the back of the Newlywed Game where Bob stood. And that was it. It was not cartoony enough to be cute. It just looked cheap. And it was cheap. And it just, in fact, I said to somebody recently, I won't mention his name, but somebody in the business, I said, how could anybody let that set go? And of course, nobody takes responsibility. But yeah, it was absolutely the worst looking set I've ever seen. But the show itself, I'm sure, had an audience. Last thing I'll say about that was the end game was very complicated with a lot of slides and such, but Woody loved shooting outside. So, we did a lot of stuff outside, including using steamrollers and steamrolling objects. Woody thought that was funny. So, like David Letterman throwing watermelons off of the roof. we would smash all sorts of things. Again, a low point in my career. If you want to call it a career, I don't. I just call it work. Okay. I'll just finish by saying that Ray Combs, very good host, but something was going on in Ray's personal life. I don't know what, towards the end, that the problem, the nightmarish problem towards the end of the show was he was just unfocused. And while we did have cue cards for his intros, Ray, for some reason, would go off of cards and he would take about 10 minutes to introduce a stunt. I don't know what was going on in his head, but unfortunately, he just couldn't handle it anymore. And Michael Berger actually wound up doing a second season. Evidently, the show was popular enough that it did come back, and Michael Berger did it. And Michael, I'm sure, did a great job. I didn't watch it, but poor Ray, he just something happened to him. I don't know what, but very good-natured guy, certainly.